Do you need a background in engineering or art to succeed as a product designer? In this episode of the Zista Podcast, that's exactly what we're going to answer. Welcome to the Zista Podcast, where we invite industry professionals, thought leaders, and senior academicians to answer queries raised by students within a specific subject area. In today's episode, we're going to be focusing on art and design, and more specifically, product design. Joining me today is Mr. Kartik Sankar from Chennai. Kartik started his career when he launched Black Magic Design, which was known for its creative excellence. He then went on to create, Left Field, which was known again as a creative hotshot. And he has worked with really big brands, in fact, all kinds of brands, big brands, medium and small brands. In his current capacity, Kartik is the founder and director of KICKASS Design and is based in Chennai. So thank you for joining us on the show, Kartik.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
So I'm going to ask you this, product designers, their work is part technical and part creative, So are product designers engineers or artists?
Well, I would say they are a bit of both.
Okay.
So you see, a product designer looks at a challenge or a problem and looks at how best to solve that. Now, the nature of the problem or the task at hand could be of any type. So it could be, for example, if you're looking at let's say a mobile phone design or some sort of a electronic gadget. So there obviously a lot of engineering comes into play. But at the same time, it's not just engineering, because you have to look at the aesthetics part, you have to look at the form factor, and you have to look at the functionality part of it, etc. So a lot of these things are also so it's a combination of left brain, right brain, both factors play into this. So the role of a product designer, as I see it, is to bridge the gap between engineering and art. So it's a multifaceted thing. So you could be an artist, you could be a salesman, you're a bit of a marketer, you are a bit of an architect, engineer, all rolled into one. So that's a product designer, because you can't really say that, okay, this kind of product I can do, but this one, so the point here is, again, it is a multidisciplinary approach, because depending on the nature of the product, there might be multiple people involved, each bringing their own skill sets and their background in engineering or art or whatever it is. So it is very much a collaborative process. So product design is a collaborative process where you have to, of course, completely understand what you are trying to solve, and then look at what are the components that will go into this solution. And so some of them may be in your wheelhouse, some of them you may need to get the required skill set or the required person or a subject matter expert on board, but the process remains the same. The collective objective is to create a solution. So it will involve a bit of engineering, it will involve a bit of art, and probably whatever else, depending on what we are trying to create there. So I would say, yes, it is both. But that doesn't mean you have to be an engineer to become a product designer, or you have to have design knowledge to become product designer, because you can always complement these skills with the team that you create and you're working on it. But all these aspects come into play when you're looking at a design solution.
It's really interesting how you mentioned that actually the process remains the same, and depending upon a specific requirement, depending upon a specific skill that you may require for a project, you may pull someone in. So is it fair to say that actually product design happens more in a collaborative team rather than an individual effort?
Yeah, absolutely. So product design is a collaborative effort. So see, for example, if you take medical devices, so you need engineers, you need software engineers, and then you need medical doctors, specialists, and then you also need the user group, because they are the ones who give you a lot of inputs. Medical specialists give you inputs, engineers bring in their perspectives, the hardware or the software guys, all of them work together. So the essence is to create so it's not just a product that we are creating that will measure something or give some sort of an output, but even the user, it may not be a doctor, it might be one of the support staff, or it could be
Lab technician, for
lab
example.
technician or someone who's using it. So the usability is extremely important there. So how many steps would this require to get the required output? Can that be optimized? Can we do it in a minimal number of steps? Because it might be, for all you know, a critical time factor between life and death. So all these things come into play. Now we're talking about this example. Let's take another example, very, very common. Let's say you're designing a backpack.
Okay.
So backpack, we all seen backpack, everyone uses it. Now here, do you need to be an engineer? Do you need to be an artist, or a bit of both? Well, see, the thing is, the design sensibility will come when you look at the form factor, when you look at what kind of a fabric, or what kind of colors or designs or patterns that goes well, what is being what do Gen Z like, what do the elder population like, etc. So lot of form factor, I mean the design, the visual part comes into play. Then comes the form factor. What would you use this backpack for? Is it just to create, carry a laptop, couple of books, or maybe some a few other items? Or okay, so let's say we make it a generic one. So then the question is, can I add something that weighs about 5 kilos, or will this bag hold only something which is about 1 to 2 kilos? It should be durable. So what kind of materials do we use? Then the thing is about the form factor. So how big or how compact should it be? What would be the mechanism to hold it? What would make carrying the backpack easier on the back? In
The
terms of
ergonomics. Yeah.
economics part of it. Then what are the areas where there are load factors happening? So where do you need to reinforce it with let's say a piece of metal rivet, or something, or a buckle, or this? What will make it use the backpack easier? You shouldn't be opening some 5 buckles and three these things to just open it. By that time, so that's not a very efficient thing. So all these factors come into play when you're creating that. So will a designer know about the load carrying capacity, or what are the stress points in the backpack? Or will the engineer know that, okay, this is the way we should create, but then it may look really lousy. No one will at the end of it buy the backpack. So it is a combination of all these things. And as I said, it's a team effort. So one of the other skills you need is also communication, negotiation, and expression. Because everyone has a point of view, everyone is ultimately working on the same idea or the output. So that becomes an important skill in this whole process.
I'm happy you touched upon skills, because one of my questions I wanted to ask you is about, would you be able to say, help us with, identifying the skills you need to succeed as a product designer? And I think to a certain extent you've answered that. But is there anything that you'd like to add to this list? You said you talked about communication, expression, negotiation. Any other skills that come to mind that you'd like to add?
Yeah, so basically you need to be a team player. And so obviously there has to be a collaborative environment where you need to be part of this whole team and the system. So communication skills and that forms a very important part. The other part could be the technical skills. So for example, what are the tools that you would use as part of the project? So you might be using, let's say, Adobe XD for UX UI designing, or a prototyping or interface design tool like Figma, or Sketch, or InVision, FlowMap, After Effects, CAD, whatever. So those might come under the skill sets point of view from a technical side. You may not even use any of those. I mean, I never used it so many years back. It was just a good old-fashioned sketch and the thing, because that you're able to express what you're thinking, and you're able to visually express it so that the other person is able to see what it is, because not everyone will be able to visualize what you have in your mind. So,
Right.
so those skills are important. So it's some technical skill, but otherwise you also need project management skills. One of the most important thing is you have to be an active listener. This I've found from experience. Um, um, uh, if you're a good listener, you will catch some finer points, which probably the client or the user happens to be mentioning casually. But those might be some very critical points that gives you insight that, okay, this might be a thing, because the user may not know that, it's like when you're describing symptoms to a doctor, you don't know what are critical, which ones are not. You are, casually mentioning some of the things that you have, but the doctor listens carefully and they catch, okay, if it is this, for you it might be somewhere lower down the list, but for the doctor that might be an important point towards your diagnosis. So same thing here, you have to be a very active listener. That's a very important point in my thing. Other than that, communication, yes, it does play a very important role. Because
Fantastic.
one more thing is, it's not just enough to have the skills, but you must also have the expression skills. Because see, at the end of it, once you have designed your prototype, the next stage is the presentation of that.
Right.
Whether it's your internal stakeholders or whether it's an external stakeholder or whoever it is. So whatever you have done should be equally effectively communicated, so that the other stakeholder are able to gather what are the benefits of this new product or a system or process that you have developed, and how is it going to impact the output part of it. So that part is also very important.
All right. All right. I think that really helps. And I guess these are the same kind of skills that you look for when you're hiring someone. I mean, in addition to the skills, do you think, like, say, when you're hiring someone, do you also look at a person's attitude? Does that play an important role?
Absolutely. I think that is important in any field, because that will show how open you are to learning and to adapt, because things are always evolving all around us, not just in terms of technology, but so many other ways. And there is always some new things that come up, and when new things come up, some challenges also come along with it. So when challenges come, you need to see how to, solve for those challenges. So, for example, so we talk about digital proliferation. I mean,
Right.
um, everything is becoming digital, and it's helping, in so many ways. Be it financial transactions, be it whatever we have seen in the last 5 years or 10 years, so much has changed. Now, the thing is, when we go take this to the next level, when we take this to the rural areas, when we take this to the hinterlands, so do you think the same system will be able to, the adoption rate would be as good as maybe in the cities and metros? Maybe may not be. So there, what are the things that we need to look at? So a good active listener, and someone who is always open to looking for what change is happening, and always open to also looking at doing research is also a very important part of this whole thing, because sometimes the solution lies in some solution which was probably created for solving something else
Right.
somewhere. But you kind of have that ability to connect the dot and say, hey, why not we use that method here? Do you think that'll work? It could be totally different area altogether, but thinking out of the box, or looking away from the your current scope, innovative thing, the attitude to be inquisitive, to be curious, to explore, to always finding out things, what's happening elsewhere, and so that is a very important skill, because that will form your basis for your drive to excel in your chosen field of product designing. So the more open you are, the more open attitude you have, the better. So that
All
will
right.
help you in a long way in your career and growth.
All right. Thanks, Karthik. I think it's really been a very nice session with you. I think you've done a fantastic job in listing the different skills that are required in explaining how product design is actually a multifaceted area. So you need to be you need to have some engineering skills, some artistic skills, and don't worry if you don't have them. You can always work in a part of a larger collaborative team and fulfill the end objective of designing a great product or a great solution. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the Zista podcast. It was wonderful having you here again.
Yeah, thanks. I thoroughly enjoyed the session, and I'm sure people will find it useful. I hope they find it useful. And if there's any questions, most welcome anytime. You can share your contact details so that students can reach out to you.
Absolutely, we'll do that. I hope you enjoyed another episode of the Zista podcast. And if you have any queries or comments, just leave them here and we'll make sure to get back to you. Let's keep a lively debate going on in terms of what you think are the skills that are required to succeed as a product designer. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any queries relating to this subject area or another subject area, we'd be happy to take it up in a subsequent episode. And you can always subscribe to us on Apple, on Spotify, or Google Podcast. Our handle is the Zista Podcast. Till then, our advice to you would be stay curious.